The most powerful thing you will ever say to a man will not be said across a dinner table. It will not be said in a long, carefully composed text message. It will not be delivered in a serious conversation where you've both sat down to talk about feelings. It will not come in the middle of an argument or at the end of one. The most powerful thing you will ever say to a man will be said quietly, closely, in a moment so private that the rest of the world doesn't even exist. And it will change everything. Not because of the words themselves, but because of the courage it took to say them and the intimacy of the way they were delivered. Most people never realize that the words a man carries with him longest, the ones he replays on a Tuesday afternoon for no particular reason, the ones that make him feel more chosen and more alive than almost anything else, are not the grand declarations. They are the whispered ones. The ones that required you to lean in close and say something true. If you've ever felt like you were doing everything right in a relationship and still somehow not quite reaching him, if you've ever sensed a distance you couldn't name, or felt like the words between you were plentiful but somehow not landing where they needed to, this video is going to change how you communicate with the man in your life permanently. By the end of this video, you will know the 3 things every man deeply, quietly, privately wants to hear from the woman he is with. You'll understand why these 3 things specifically. You'll understand the psychology of what they do to a man when he hears them. And you will have the confidence to say them. Not as a technique, not as a strategy, but as the most honest, most intimate expression of what you actually feel. Let's start with the truth about where most relationships quietly lose their spark. Because I think this is something you've felt, even if you've never had words for it. You've been trying so hard. You've been showing up. You've been present. You've been affectionate. You've been doing the things that people say you're supposed to do in a healthy relationship. And the love between you is real. You know it is. But somewhere along the way, the words started to feel a little automatic. The I love you at the end of a phone call. The you look nice when he gets dressed up. The kindnesses that are genuine, but have quietly lost their texture, their specificity, their electricity. You haven't done anything wrong. This is what happens in long relationships and even in new ones that are moving fast. Language becomes routine. We reach for the familiar phrase because it's available and it's true and it does the job. We stop choosing our words with the same intentionality we had at the beginning, when everything we said to each other felt like it was being said for the first time. Here's what most people don't understand about men and emotional communication. Men are often painted as creatures who don't need words, who prefer actions, who are embarrassed by sentiment, who would rather do something than say something. And there is a grain of truth in that portrait. But underneath it is a much more complicated, much more tender reality. Men are deeply, privately hungry for specific kinds of words. Not constant affirmation, not endless declarations, but certain things said in certain ways at certain moments that reach into the part of him that is not the confident, composed man the world sees, but the person underneath that. The person who wonders sometimes in the quiet of his own mind whether he is enough, whether he is truly seen, whether the woman he loves actually wants him, all of him, not just the impressive parts. Every man, regardless of how put together he appears, carries that quiet wondering. And the woman who knows how to speak to it, simply, honestly, directly becomes unforgettable to him. Not because she played a game, because she was brave enough to be real. These 3 things I'm going to share with you are not scripts. They are not lines to memorize. They are invitations. Invitations to say something true in a way that is closer, warmer, and more intentional than the words you've been using. Think of each one as a door. And behind each door is a version of your relationship or your connection with someone new that is deeper, more alive, and more honest than what you have right now. Let's open the first one. This is the one that surprises most women because at first glance, it seems almost too simple, too quiet, not romantic enough, not exciting enough. But I want you to stay with me here because this is one of the most profound things you can say to a man, and the reason why will change how you think about what men actually need from love. A man who loves a woman wants, more than almost anything else, to be her safe place. This is not about being overprotective or controlling. It is about the deep, primal need that most men carry to matter, to be needed. Not in a way that makes you weak, but in a way that makes him feel that his presence in your life genuinely changes something. That you are better, calmer, more yourself because he is there. When you tell a man you feel safe with him, you are giving him something that no amount of complimenting his appearance or his accomplishments can provide. You are telling him that his presence, his specific, irreplaceable presence, does something to you that no one and nothing else can replicate. You are not describing what he looks like or what he has achieved. You are describing what he is. And that is the deepest level at which any human being can be affirmed. But here is why this needs to be whispered rather than announced. Safety is an intimate thing. It lives in the private spaces between 2 people. When you lean toward him and say quietly, "I feel so safe with you," not performing it, not making a ceremony of it, just saying it simply because it is true, he receives it differently than if it was said across a room or typed in a message. He receives it in his body, in that ancient, quiet part of him that has been building walls since he was a boy, because the world does not often reward men for being soft or scared or uncertain. You are reaching through those walls directly with 6 words. Picture this. You're in a moment that is not particularly romantic. Maybe you're in the car together. Maybe you've just had a difficult day and you've ended up leaning slightly against him on the sofa. The room is quiet, and you turn your face toward his and say softly, almost to yourself, "I feel so safe with you." Not looking for a response, not building towards something, just saying it because in that moment it is the truest thing you know. Watch what happens to him. Not always immediately. Some men need a moment to let something land, but the shift will come in the way his posture changes, in the slight tightening of his arm around you, in the way he looks at you later that evening, like something has settled between you that had been unsettled for a long time. He has been waiting for you to say that. He may not have known it, but the moment you do, he will know it completely. Think about that for a second. The man who feels like your safe place is the man who will move mountains to keep being it. You are not just giving him a compliment. You are giving him a purpose. When you tell a man he is your safe place, you stop being someone he is with and become someone he is protecting with everything he has. But here's where it gets interesting. Because the second thing is one that most women underestimate almost completely. Not because it seems too complicated, but because it seems too straightforward, too obvious.
Of course he knows I'm proud of him. But does he? Does he really? Has he heard you say it? Not in a card, not in a toast at someone else's event. In the quiet, close, unperformed way that makes it undeniably real. Here is something about men that gets very little airtime in relationship conversations. Men carry an enormous amount of private pressure around achievement, identity, and worth. From the time they are small boys, most men receive a message from the world, from other men, from a culture that often equates male value with productivity and success, that says your worth is what you do, not what you feel, not who you are, what you produce, what you provide, what you accomplish. That message is exhausting to carry. And most men carry it so quietly and for so long that they stop being aware of how heavy it is. They just feel the weight. They just feel the low-grade anxiety of wondering if they are doing enough, being enough, amounting to enough. And then the woman they love leans toward them and says quietly, "I'm so proud of you." Not for the big thing, not for the promotion or the award or the moment the whole room was applauding, for something small, for the thing he tried that didn't quite work, but that took courage anyway, for the difficult conversation he had that he was dreading, for the fact that he got up this morning and showed up and kept going, even though some days that takes more out of him than it looks, for the person he is becoming, slowly, quietly, in ways that the world might not see yet, but that you do. That is the version of this that matters most. The proud that is not tied to his performance. The proud that is tied to who he is. Here's the real life version of this. He has just done something difficult. Maybe he had a conversation with someone he was afraid to confront. Maybe he made a decision that cost him something, but was the right one. Maybe he finished something he'd been putting off because it scared him. It doesn't have to be enormous. He comes home, or you hang up the call, or he turns to you after, and before he can start processing or deflecting or minimizing it the way men often do, you lean toward him and say, quietly and directly, "I'm so proud of you." Not "good job," not "that was great." Those are the words of an observer. "I'm proud of you" is the language of someone who has been watching him, truly watching him, and has seen something worth honoring. And when a man hears those words from the woman he loves, when he hears them not after his best moment, but in the middle of an ordinary one, it does something to the structure of how he sees himself. It gives him evidence from someone whose opinion is the one that matters most, that the effort is visible, that the trying counts, that the person he is working to become is someone already worth being proud of. The whisper matters here, because pride expressed quietly is pride expressed intimately. "I'm proud of you" said in front of a group is kind. "I'm proud of you" said with your lips near his ear, with no audience, with nothing to prove. That is something he will carry inside him for years. A man who knows the woman he loves is proud of him
will walk into every hard room in his life a little taller, because she has already told him who he is when no one else is looking. And if you think that was powerful, wait for this, because this is the one. This is the one that reaches the deepest. This is the one that answers the question every man is quietly asking in the back of his mind. The question he may never say out loud, that he might not even consciously acknowledge to himself, but that shapes almost every interaction he has with you. That question is this: does she still choose me? Not, did she choose me when she said yes to a first date? Not, did she choose me when things were new and everything was easy and the relationship sold itself? But now, today, with full knowledge of who I am, the parts I'm proud of and the parts I'm not, the mornings I'm not good company and the dreams I haven't reached yet, and the fears I try to hide, does she still choose me? Not because she has to, not because leaving would be complicated, but because if she stood at the beginning of this, knowing everything she knows now, she would do it all over again. That question sits in him quietly, and most men never ask it out loud. They just live with the low hum of it. They just continue forward without ever receiving the answer. And that low hum, that unresolved private wondering, creates a kind of emotional distance that neither of you can quite name. He seems fine. The relationship seems fine. But there is a subtle guardedness in him, a part he holds slightly back, because he is not fully certain that the answer to his quiet question is yes.
Now imagine the moment you close that distance.
Imagine leaning toward him, not in a moment of conflict, not as a reassurance after a fight, but on an ordinary evening, out of nowhere, because it is simply true, and saying, I choose you every single day. I want you to know that. The room may not change. He may not immediately burst into tears or make a grand gesture. Men often receive these moments quietly, and the impact is not always visible on the surface. But something will shift. Something fundamental will settle in him, like a weight he has been carrying without realizing it has been quietly set down. And from that moment forward, the relationship has a different quality. Not because of grand drama or sweeping change, because one of the deepest, most private anxieties he carries has been answered by you with 5 words. Think about that for a second. Think about how rarely anyone in this world tells another person, not I love you, because love can be passive, love can be habitual, love can be the thing you feel because you've always felt it, but I choose you. Choosing is active. Choosing is present tense. Choosing is a verb that requires agency and intention. When you tell a man you choose him, you are telling him that the decision is being made right now, fully consciously, with complete awareness of all his alternatives and all of yours. You are telling him he is not someone you ended up with. He is someone you keep picking. Every morning you open your eyes and he is there. You are deciding, again, that there is nowhere better to be. Here is the version of this that will stay with you. It is an ordinary Wednesday evening. Nothing special has happened. You're both tired from the day. The conversation is quiet. The kind of evening that no one ever writes songs about, but that makes up most of a life.
And you're sitting close to him.
And you turn and lean toward his ear and you say softly, I just want you to know, I choose you. Every day, I choose you. and you mean it simply, without wanting anything back, just because it is true and you wanted him to know it. What happens inside him in that moment is not small. What happens inside him is that a door he has been keeping slightly closed, not because he doesn't love you, but because he has never been fully certain you are certain, swings quietly, completely open. And from that point on, you have access to parts of him that had been waiting behind that door for a long time. The trust that comes from feeling truly chosen, not just loved, not just appreciated, but actively, consciously selected, is the foundation of everything in a relationship that is deep and lasting and real. It is what allows a man to be fully himself with you, to stop performing and start living,
to stop holding anything back, because holding back is no longer necessary.
You have the power to give him that with a whisper on any ordinary evening, starting tonight. Love keeps two people together, but the knowledge that you are still being chosen is what makes a man brave enough to give you everything he has. 3 things, 3 whispers, 3 sentences that carry more weight than any of the larger, louder words most relationships are built from. I feel safe with you. The words that tell him his presence in your life is irreplaceable, that he is not just someone you love, but someone who has become the ground beneath you. I'm so proud of you. The words that see him not at his best, but in the middle of his becoming, that honor the effort before the result, the trying before the triumph. And I choose you every single day, the words that answer the question he has never been brave enough to ask out loud, and that give him, finally, the certainty that allows him to love you without reservation. Now, here is what I need you to hear before this ends. Some of you are listening to this and thinking, but he should already know these things. I shouldn't have to say them out loud. And I understand that thought. I do. It comes from a real and understandable place. The place that says love should be self-evident. That if he paid attention, he would see how you feel without you having to find the words. But here is the truth about communication that took me a long time to fully understand. Knowing something in your heart and transmitting it to another person are 2 entirely different acts. You can feel all 3 of these things deeply, genuinely, with your whole self, and he can still be living without the certainty of them. Because certainty is not something people absorb through proximity. It is something that has to be spoken specifically, intentionally, directly. The whisper is not about making yourself vulnerable for the sake of it. It is not about giving more than you receive or saying things before they've been earned. It is about recognizing that the person you love is a human being who needs to hear in real words, in real time, what they mean to you. And choosing to give that, not because you're required to, but because you are generous enough and secure enough and clear enough in your own feelings to say the true thing out loud. That is not weakness. That is the bravest, most powerful thing you can do in a relationship. The woman who whispers these things to a man, who says them not as performance, but as truth, quietly and closely and without agenda becomes the person he measures every room against when she's not in it. She becomes the voice in his head on the hard days.
She becomes the reason he comes home.
You have been given something real in this video today. Not a trick, not a line. 3 genuine, deeply human truths that your man is waiting to hear from you, possibly without knowing he is waiting, but waiting nonetheless. Say them. Say them soon. Say them on an ordinary evening when nothing special is happening, because that is exactly when they carry the most weight. Not when the moment demands it, when you simply feel it and you decide consciously, courageously, to close the distance between what you feel and what he knows. This is your moment. Don't waste it. If this spoke to you, if something here shifted the way you think about how you communicate with the man in your life, subscribe to this channel and watch our next video on the 3 questions a man asks himself before he decides you are the one. Because what you say to him matters. And now it's time to understand what he is saying to himself about you.